Excuse me. Hey, he cut the live feed. Alex, he just cut the live feed.
Turn it off,
He's
We went up there, me and Josh, and we rolled up, and I asked them for their ID, and I guess the military police at the Utah NSA headquarters didn't like that too much. And I said, well, you get our information all the time. I want to see your ID. And of course, they arrested us, took all of our videos.
But we're too dumb to actually erase them.
Too dumb to actually erase them. Took everything we had. It was on live stream. I kept saying, this is being live streamed. People already see this. This is being live streamed. This is on air to millions of people. And they told us if we came back, we'd be put in a military detainment center. For me, going into a parking lot, I couldn't even get to their HQ. Went to their parking lot.
But if you were ISIS, they would give you weapons.
Yeah, if I was an undocumented migrant, I'd probably be let in immediately. But the whole point is,
these people are taking down America.
Exactly. We do these stupid, silly things to make a point.
We're an open, free society. They are just carving us up, and we're just here showing what a joke it is. Exactly. We're just here desperately trying to get people to become aware of, are we land of the chumps, home of the schmucks, or are we land of the free, home of the brave? Anthony?
Exactly. It's a stunt to show what they're doing in a more abrupt way, where this actually happens in a way that you can see it. We walk in, they get upset, but your information is being stolen and you're not upset about it, right? We go in there, they get upset.
We go in there and they freak out that we're at Google and that we dare even
record anything they do, but they can record everything we do, and that's fine.
Should humans all just commit suicide en masse?
No, definitely not.
Eat tacos and go to bed.
I believe in progress. I think we're progressing.
We are. Well, the IQs are dropping, and the brain waves are dropping, and the neural tissue is rotting. So we're not progressing according.
It's 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. But I think generally things are progressing.
And the people running things, they love us.
No, that's too abstract. There's too much abstract.
Bernie Sanders loves us. Old Bernie said China has really great babies' rights, infant rights.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you agree with that?
I've made my statement, and that is all I'm going to say.
Just Bernie Sanders is great, but don't back up with Bernie Sanders up.
There's never going to be.
What about China, like killing 50 million girls, and even including after they're born? You don't even know about that? See, she doesn't know. That's a shield against that. And so Bernie Sanders is great, and China has the model. Time to go. Hey, bye.
Thanks, Alex.
Bye. Hey,
Good
take care, man.
Take care.
Be safe. See, it's all funny. Bernie Sanders is going to save us, but China has got great stuff for babies. And then, like, kind of videotape, like you videotape us, we videotape you, like we're intimidated by that. We go up against the New World Order. But see how they've instilled a love of destruction, a love of enslavement in these people? Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Alex Jones inside Google, simply saying, hey, you watch us, we watch you. And we're going to recommend InfoWarriors in the next few weeks. Come down here by the thousands and come in with your phones and do live reports surveilling them. They won't be able to stop the signal. Alex Jones for InfoWars.com. If you're watching this transmission, you are the resistance. Shane Steiner's involvement with InfoWarsLife.com truly happened in an organic way. I went to high school with Shane, his brother, knew his parents well, and he was visiting the office once, hadn't been to the office in years, and said, wow, I notice you're making and selling supplements. Do these really work? Because I've tried a lot of supplements as a workout enthusiast, and I really think most of them are hype. And I said, here, take some home, try it. Well, a few weeks later, he came in blown away and said, I want to buy 3 boxes of this stuff to give my friends and family. It's simply amazing. He said, why does it work so well? And I said, listen, go to InfoWarsLife.com, watch the informational videos with Dr. Group and others. They understand how it all works. I know that it works for me. That's all I understand. The science, the facts, the research, people's testimonials, they're all on InfoWarsLife.com. You can check it out for yourself.
I wanted to go to the gym. I wanted to push myself and work out harder. And that led to me being able to come out and do stuff like the barefooting and the surfing and stuff like that, which I've never done. I never would have done that 2 years ago.
Shane has said over and over again, more than just libido and energy, it made him want to get into the gym more. It made him want to get in better shape. And believe me, the Steiners have amazing genetics. His brother is a world champion steer wrestler. His dad, Bobby Steiner, is a famous world champion bull rider. They've got natural genetics. But when you added this to the mix, in Shane's own words, it took him to the next level. Shane noticed the mental clarity, Bobby was able to work out longer and gain muscle mass. He's already completely shredded. I gotta admit, for me, the biggest effect has been libido. Now, I've never claimed to have a body like some beach model, but back when I was 20, 22 years old and worked out every day, I looked great. But over the years, and being married, having 3 kids, and working 18 hours a day, I gained basically 100 pounds. And it's been a long process losing that weight in the last 4 years. But if you look at the photos and the videos of what I looked like 4 or 5 years ago versus today, the results are dramatic. I'd already cleaned up my diet. I was working out hard, but I'd only lost about 20 pounds. It was adding the other key ingredients from InfoWarsLife.com that helped me personally go to the next level and shed another 35 pounds.
This has actually made me feel so good that here lately, about a year ago, I started training jiu-jitsu, and that kind of led to doing some boxing and kickboxing. I mean, it's amazing that 2 years ago, I was on the couch and couldn't even tie my shoes, and now I'm training with MMA fighters and just doing stuff that I never thought that I would be doing ever again. So Super Male Vitality has allowed me to do some amazing things, and if it has those kind of effects for me, I know that it will do great things for you. So just try Super Male Vitality. I promise you, you'll love it.
And finally, let's look at Anthony Gucciardi, InfoWars.com reporter. He also works with Dr. Group and others, helping develop the newest, most cutting-edge, high-quality supplements. Let's take a look at what happened when he tried to barefoot ski for the first time with the Steiners. And remember, we're not making fun of him. He had the will to get in the arena, and he's lost more than 10 pounds in the last few years of fat and gained more than 10 pounds of muscle. And Anthony chalks it up to Super Male Vitality as well. Bottom line, folks, you want to discover the power of Super Male Vitality and Super Female Vitality for yourself by visiting InfoWarsLife.com today or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.
Well, tonight we're joined by Roger Stone. Of course, he has a very long history with presidents throughout history. He's written 3 books. This is the 3rd book we're going to talk to him about tonight. But of course, he's written about who killed JFK, the case against LBJ, Nixon's secrets, the rise, the fall, the untold truth about the president, and Watergate. And now this book that we're going to talk to him about tonight, Clinton's War on Women. I'm very anxious to talk to Mr. Stone. He's a political consultant, lobbyist, a strategist, and of course, you have been there for a long time at the epicenter of history, really.
Yeah, I like to say I spent 40 years in the corroded rectum of the two-party system. You know, I worked on the Senate side for Senator Bob Dole as an assistant to Dole. I worked on the House side as an assistant to Congressman Robert Steele. I was a lobbyist, which is the job I liked the least. I'm a veteran of 9 Republican presidential campaigns, starting with Richard Nixon, who was really my mentor.
Wow.
I was the youngest member of the staff of the committee to re-elect the president, the notorious
Creep.
committee. Yeah, I went to the Watergate grand jury myself 3 times.
Really?
I was only 19 years old.
Wow.
I worked as a senior aide to Ronald Reagan in 3 presidential campaigns, 1976, 1980, 1984. I reluctantly came in at the end of the 1988 election to help George H.W. Bush. One of the things in my life I regret. I dropped in for the recount because Jim Baker, who had been Reagan's chief of staff, was a friend and someone who I owed politically. And in my business, if you don't pay off your debts, you're out of business pretty quick. And then, you know, frankly, with the nomination of Mitt Romney, despite my long sentimental attachment to the Republican Party, I left to become a libertarian. I just couldn't stomach the fact that the Republican Party of Barry Goldwater, a party dedicated to small government and fiscal responsibility and personal freedom and liberty, had become the Wall Street Party, had become the party of endless war,
Yes.
erosion of civil liberties, massive debt, spending worse than the Democrats in the Bush years, far worse. I couldn't take it anymore. So,
And of course, what Romney Care was essentially the same as Obamacare. He had done that with Ted Kennedy, a perfect example of how at the top they're exactly the same.
What aggravated me was that Romney's running around the country saying, Ronald Reagan, Ronald Reagan. You know what, in 1980, you know who he supported for president? Paul Tsongas, the left-wing senator from Massachusetts.
Sure.
Mitt Romney wasn't even a registered Republican until he ran for governor, and then he became a Republican to run. So he's just an opportunist. And he couldn't even sound like, I'm a severely conservative. What does that mean?
Yeah.
The guy couldn't even talk the talk, never mind walk the walk. So I helped Governor Gary Johnson, who's a very accomplished and pro-freedom, pro-liberty, two-term governor of New Mexico, who had a great track record for economic growth and personal freedom. I helped get him on the ballot in 48 states. And I found that to be both a great experience and a very frustrating experience, because the Presidential Commission on Debates is not appointed by the president.
Right.
It's not a commission, and it's not about debate. It's about limiting debate to the two Tweedledum, Tweedledee, two-party duopoly that stand for the same thing. They didn't want anybody to know that there was a third choice.
And of course, this is a guy who was a very popular two-term governor as a Republican of a Democrat state. And they would say, you're not going to be invited to the debates because you didn't show up in the polls, but they wouldn't even put his name on the polls. Well, it's
a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're not in the debate, you can't rise in the polls. And if you don't rise in the polls, you can't get in the debate.
And if they don't put your name on the poll, you're not going to do well on the poll either. So they've got it rigged multiple angles.
Yeah. And they changed the rules, as Ross Perot found out in '92. When you reach a certain level, or with Ron Paul at the Republican National Convention, you needed 6 states to have you needed a majority of 6 states to vote to have your name put on the ballot. So when Congressman Paul got to 6 states, they quickly changed the rule to 8.
Yeah.
They did the same thing with Gary Johnson. You needed to have you had to reach a certain number of the votes in 2 successive polls. So when he met that threshold, they changed the rule very quickly to 3.
Yeah.
They didn't want the people to know that there was a candidate who wanted to end the war in Afghanistan. They didn't want people to know there was a candidate who would have legalized marijuana and ended the war on drugs. They didn't want them to know that there was a candidate who would repeal the Patriot Act and the NDAA. They didn't want people to know that those alternatives were even available. I met a very rich woman the other day, hedge fund manager, pro-liberty, and she said, I just didn't know what to do. I didn't want to vote. I didn't like Obama and I didn't like Romney, and I just felt I had no choice. I said, well, what about Governor Gary Johnson? She said, who?
Yeah.
She didn't even know he ran.
Yeah. Because
the New York Times never covered it. They barely mentioned his name as if he didn't even exist. And she lived in New York City. She was unaware that there was an alternative.
Now, of course, you've been at the epicenter of politics, as you point out, going way back, going back to Nixon when you were actively involved. You got interested with Barry Goldwater, but of course, recently you've been at the epicenter of everything with Donald Trump. Until August, you were one of his inside campaign advisors. Now, he's somebody who knows about the war on drugs. Let me give you this quote going back to April 15th, 1990. He met with some people. He blamed the country's drug problems on politicians who, quote, don't have any guts. He said enforcement efforts were a joke. He said we're losing badly the war on drugs. He told 700 people at the luncheon Friday, you have to legalize drugs to win that war. You have to take the profits away from the drug czars. You and I both know that's exactly true.
Yes.
As libertarians. So
yes.
Is he going to come out with that? Is he going to be able to do that with the Republicans, or is he going to have to wait until the general election to say something like that?
It's important to understand that Donald Trump is a man who has never had an alcoholic drink in his entire life, not even a glass of wine. His brother died of acute alcoholism, so addiction is something that he's experienced firsthand. But he understands that incarceration, which is very expensive and ineffective, is not the solution to the problem, and that the enforcement efforts are just expensive and failed. So, yeah, I think he would seek to view drug addiction as a health problem, not a law enforcement problem. And he realizes when you compare the dollars to the results that the war on drugs has been a big, expensive failure. Trump is about results. He's a businessman. And
it's failed for 44 years.
Right. Businessmen look at any program or any business in this case, because government really is a business, and they look at the cost and the effect to see if anything they do has been cost effective.
You got a lot of people that are talking about that right now. This weekend, you had Chris Christie had a viral video that came out where he's talking about a friend of his who got addicted to prescription drugs, talking about how the war on drugs is a failure. We need to treat it as a medical situation. But of course, he's still for having the law enforcement branch of this. He doesn't want to legalize marijuana. As a matter of fact, Chris Christie would come after the states who have legalized it, like Colorado does. I'm really confused about his situation.
Yeah,
but you've also got others who are now coming out. You know, Jeb Bush is talking about his daughter now, when before he was coming after the newspapers that they talked about her. Now Jeb Bush is talking about his daughter who was addicted to alcohol and prescription drugs.
I think Jeb is concerned because he is worried that his own background as both a drug dealer and a drug user, when compared to his support for much tougher penalties, mandatory penalties for those caught with small amounts of drugs is a question of epic hypocrisy. Senator Rand Paul raised this question. I mean, the truth is,